Good morning, all. Thank you for joining this session on a Saturday morning. In this session, it's like we are talking more about plan, pause, and pivot. So, this session is more for the financial planning for freelancers or something like a consultant job, where it's not going to be, let's say, like a fixed plan for your lifetime. It's going to be very dynamic. Because if you are a freelancer, consultant, or a content creator, or anyone earning outside the traditional salary system, this webinar is for you. So, the freelance life gives us a flexibility and freedom. No bosses, no fixed 9 to 5, and no dress codes. But it also comes with its own unique financial challenges. Irregular cash flow, lack of employer benefits, sudden income gaps, and these are real and frequent. So today in this session, I and my colleague Kishore, we are going to walk through how to build a strong yet flexible financial base, how to prepare for intentional or let's say unplanned income breaks, how to fund for career switches or sabbaticals if any. So I'll move on to my colleague Kishore. Please continue.
So in this slide, we are going to see about the pillars of your financial plan. Before we move into the details, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. As a freelancer, your financial life works a bit differently from someone in a regular job. There is no fixed salary, no employer benefits like EPF or health insurance. It's all on you. So what do you really need to stay financially secure and confident? We'd like to break it down into three broad pillars. First one is plan, second one is pause, and third one is pivot. The first pillar, plan, your financial base. This is the part that helps you stay steady when your income is it. It includes the basics like having an emergency fund, adequate insurance coverage, life and health insurance, and organized approach to savings and investing to give your finances some stability. You're basically setting yourself up with these essentials so that you're not caught off guard when something unexpected happens, like a payment delay from a client or a health issue. For instance, if there's a sudden medical emergency in the family, it could cost in lakhs. If you already have health insurance in place, you can be protected from a financial breakdown. Without it, you might have to dip into your savings or investments or even borrow in a rush, which just adds more pressure. So, developing a financial base is really about taking the pressure off. Now, we talk about the second pillar, the pause, which is about managing your income breaks. It is pretty common for freelancers to have ups and downs in their work and income. Sometimes it's something you plan for, like taking a time off for a short holiday or spending time with your family. Other times, it is out of your hands, like those slow months when new projects just aren't coming in. Whatever the reason, these breaks can be mentally and financially stressful, especially if you're not prepared for them. That's where something like a pause fund comes in. It's essentially a financial cushion you have built up over time by setting aside a fixed sum every month, separate from your emergency fund that's specifically meant to cover your regular expenses during periods when your income dips or stops temporarily. This kind of funds help you take break without guilt or panic. You are not forced to say yes to every project just to stay afloat, and you don't need to rely on credit cards or last minute borrowings to pay your bills. It is about making sure that your expenses are taken care of, even if your primary income stops for a while. The final pillar, pivot, which is to plan out transitions. This is when you are thinking of switching things up, maybe moving into a new kind of work, upskilling, or taking a sabbatical. These shifts are exciting, but they often come with the financial implications. So, this pillar is about planning ahead from those bigger changes, savings in advance, and budgeting for a temporary dip in income. Like if you are planning to take a short term course the last 6 months and you weren't taking any clients during that time. Your pivot plan would include covering your living costs and course fee without stressing every month. So building your finances around these pillars, plan, pause, and pivot, can give you the kind of stability and flexibility that this type lifestyle demands. So in this slide, you are going to see a simple case. Let's meet Ram, who's 30 years old, works as a content freelancer and earns anywhere between 1 to 3 lakhs per month. Depending on how many projects he handled in a month, his monthly lifestyle expenses are stable at rupees 1 lakh. That means he has a potential to save well, but also the risk of dipping into savings during a dry spell. Now imagine this. Ram is hit by a sudden medical emergency. No insurance, no savings set aside for emergency, is forced to borrow or break investments at the worst possible time. This is the reality for many freelancers. Income looks great on paper, but financial preparedness is often missing. Next up is about building your financial core. So, what should Ram or any freelancer do first? Build what we call the financial core. Here are the must-haves you should have in your portfolio. Emergency reserve. This is your personal buffer. Ideally, you should have around 6 to 12 months of expenses parked in a liquid fund or savings account. Why? Because freelancing income isn't always steady. This fund helps you manage delayed client payments, income gaps, or sudden expenses without panic. Health insurance. A medical cost are one of the top reasons people fall into debt. A 5 to 10 lakh cover, even if you are young and healthy, protects your savings. Next of all is term insurance. If you have dependents, spouse, kids, parents, term life insurance is essential. It is affordable and provides large coverage. Don't rely on ULIPs or endowment plans. Pure term insurance is the cleanest way to protect your family. Next of all is the critical illness insurance. This insurance covers major illness like cancers and heart attacks, etc. Provides a lump sum payout that helps during treatment or recovery when you may not be able to work at all. These aren't wealth builders, they are wealth protectors. They ensure your financial plan doesn't collapse when things get difficult. Next of all, we are going to see about leverage. Here in leverage, when to use and when not to. Now, let's talk about a term that's used fancily, but it is often misunderstood, leverage. Leverage simply means using borrowed money or resources to amplify outcomes. Used rightly, it can help you grow your income or assets faster. For example, you take a business loan to buy a better equipment or invest in an asset that generates more income. That's strategic use of leverage. But if used wrong, it can leave you in a debt trap. Like when you have unsteady income and borrow further capital without a plan to repay. It can pull you into a cycle of debt, especially because interest outflows over the long term horizon is significantly very huge. So, should freelancers use leverage at all? Maybe, but only when it really makes sense and you have got a solid handle on your finances. It is not something to jump into because it feels like a shortcut.
So thank you, Kishore, for taking us through the core things that a freelancer or a consultant without, let's say, a steady job or let's say with a variable income should consider. You spoke about the core theme like emergency reserve, health insurance, term insurance, and also more about understanding leverage. So we'll just let's say revisit, let's say whatever we spoke and create a checklist for you. And as Kishore rightly said, debt or leverage is a boon and bane. So if you know to use it wisely, it's going to be a great tool for you. And generally, we find out people or let's say freelancers depend on leverage only when they don't have backup reserves for their unexpected expenses. That's why the core of financial planning would be an emergency reserve or a sabbatical fund for pause, pivot, and so on. So next, we are again going to revise on let's say what are the main three things that we spoke about. That is first is pause fund, different from your emergency fund, whereas emergency fund is built for your 1 year or 6 months of expenses and set aside for any unexpected emergencies. So pause fund would be different from your emergency fund. It's a separate fund. This is specifically for your intentional breaks. Say 3 months off for a sabbatical, or let's say some tour that you're visiting and you want to take some time off your work. So this keeps your lifestyle going without even deeping on your investments and emergency fund. Second is expense prepayment bucket. Before a planned pause, pay off big ticket size expenses in advance. Like let's say it can be a credit card, outstanding, rent, school fees, EMIs, and so on. So this would reduce your monthly stress during that break or let's say a sabbatical time phrase. So side income streams. These are your income backups, not your main hustle. Think, let's say for example, blog monetization, affiliate income, rent, part-time consulting, and so on. Even a small steady stream can make a big difference when main income stops. So planning for pauses is not pessimistic, it's strategic. It gives you the freedom to take time off without stressing about the money. So we'll go through one more case study and then it's like we can open up the flow for question answers. So let's say, for example, meet Aditi. She's a 30-year-old bachelor with parents. As a freelancer, how should she start saving towards her financial goals? So one thing is for her short-term needs, we need to create an emergency fund for her. So let's say, for example, she can park this amount, or let's say 6 months or 1 year of expenses in an FD or something like a liquid debt or a short-term debt funds. So apart from this, before starting out any investments, I would recommend first things to be tick marked on your checklist would be emergency reserve, then the insurance component. Once you make sure you have adequate insurance in health insurance and term insurance and an emergency fund setup, then you can start working towards your other financial goals. Like let's say medium term goals can be in the varies of let's say upskilling or doing a vacation goal or so on once in 2 years or 3 years and so that. In that case, you can make use of something like a hybrid mutual fund, short-term debt mutual fund for the same. And obviously, for the long-term wealth creation, the best strategy is going to be equity mutual funds, NPS, and even PPF. NPS is actually one of the great investment avenue that is there. It's let's say for example, you can subscribe even if you are not on a employee-based work pay like an EPF. You can actually go and subscribe for an NPS. This actually builds a great investment habit for your retirement because in NPS actually there's going to be a lock-in for your 58 to 60 years of age. So you won't be able to withdraw the money from the NPS bucket. So this is going to create a consistent compounding for you for your long-term goal. Apart from this PPF, Public Provident Fund. So in PPF also, you can make sure you contribute minimum 1.5 lakhs on a yearly basis and build a good reserve for your goals that are 10, 15 years down the line. And obviously, for the higher compounding and inflation beating returns, there are mutual funds that are there in India, and you can reach out to your advisor for more clarity about this. So the goal isn't just saving, it's intentional saving. So where every investment is linked towards a specific financial goal, because most of us would already have some investments going on. But when that specific investment is tagged to a specific goal, we become more accountable and responsible and work towards that very carefully. So hence, mapping your investment towards your financial goals is very important. And maybe after this session, what you can start with is sit down, list out all your financial goals, rank them in priority basis, and see it's like what are your investments that you can map towards that. And in case if any shortfall is there, how you can build towards it. That's where a financial advisor would come into picture and help you in the same process. So there are few people. I would open up the session for question answers. We'll be happy to take the same. So you can drop your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A chat box, and yeah, we'll answer. We'll try to answer the same. So obviously, personal finance is going to be more personal, and you won't be comfortable asking in a public forum. We will also drop our email IDs. Kishore, please drop our email IDs in the chat box. And if any doubts and queries, please feel free to reach out to us. But if you have a doubt or query that can actually help out the other attendees also, please feel free to drop it in the chat box. Sarath Sara asked, what is your opinion about Parak Parik FlexiCap fund? Do you think it will still grow? So actually, we are not allowed to comment on a specific fund and the strategy, but we can connect in person and let's say give you, let's say connect and know more about your investment portfolio and then give you a recommendation on the same. So what services does ithought provide in this area? So one thing is we have been a wealth management and financial consulting firm for last 15 years. We help our investors in the way of, let's say, for example, mutual fund distribution and portfolio management services. In mutual fund distribution, we help you invest across mutual fund investments in India based on your unique requirements and financial goals. And in portfolio management services, we ourselves are the manufacturers of the portfolios. We directly invest into stocks and let's say curate a strategy for you in this, let's say, investment product. So apart from that, we do also provide let's say, based on your unique needs and requirements, we can do some workings for you, and that can also give you some clarity about your financial goal planning and too. What are the possible ways to park money for pause fund, which is better, liquid funds or bonds? So I would recommend it can be a mix of liquid funds and arbitrage funds because one thing that would be is, let's say, for example, if you consider, let's say, a short-term bond also, there is sometimes a liquidity issue that would come in. Let's say, even if we depend on, let's say, something like a retail bond or let's say treasury bills, we need to make sure it's like emergency funds or let's say pause funds or something that we can easily liquidate when we need the amount. So considering that some people are, let's say, comfortable with parking their money in FDs because with one click, it's going to be readily available in their bank account. But whereas, let's say, for example, where already you have a good, decent emergency reserve, you can make use of arbitrage fund because that's going to be more tax efficient for you. Because in short-term debt fund, bond, FDs, and so on, in FDs, whenever interest is provided, it's going to be taxed at a slab rate. In liquid funds and debt funds, unless you sell it out, they won't be the capital gains won't be taxed to your slab rate. But in arbitrage fund, what happens is, let's say the taxation is at par with the equity investments. So let's say, for example, you're holding for a arbitrage fund for span of 1 year plus, you're going to be only taxed at 12.5% on your total gains, not on a slab rate of 30, 33% and so on. So I would recommend if you already have an emergency fund ready and it's already in liquid funds, FDs or mix of bonds, your pause fund can be into arbitrage funds. So actually, sir, in arbitrage fund, it's not directly taxed at your slab rate. So in that case, let's say even if you are about 12 lakhs per annum, and even if you are below 12 lakhs per annum, your capital gains of arbitrage funds would be in line with equity. Let's say for short-term funds, it's clear it's 20% on slab, let's say on the capital gains. And over a 1 year period, it's going to be 12.5% with 1.25 lakhs exemption, sir. Do you provide any service in ithought for such diversification in financial planning? So currently we are not specifically doing financial planning or comprehensive planning exercises, but based on, let's say, your needs and requirements, we would be happy to do the same. And whenever we build a portfolio, it can be, let's say, a PMS strategy or a mutual fund strategy. We make sure that we look it as a holistic point of view, as a multi-asset allocation that we want to curate for you. So in that case, why we want to create a multi-asset portfolio for you would be because this market is not going to be steady, that one asset class is going to perform for continuous periods of 3 to 5 years or 10 years and so on. Every asset class has a cycle. So in that cycle, we make sure that you participate at the right time at the right asset class. And that's where we help you with the diversification in your portfolio. So that's something we also cover under the, let's say, exercise for your investment reviews. We'll be happy to take few more questions if there are any. Or apart from that, let's say if you are, feel free to drop a mail or reach out to us. We'll be happy to guide you on the same. So I guess it's like we can wind up the session. So thank you all for joining this webinars, and we look forward to connecting on the upcoming week with more interesting content. Have a good weekend.